Well, bonds actually have several different types of yields. There's one that is referred to much more frequently than the others. And for our purposes, we're going to just consider the word yield, meaning yield to maturity. There are, like I said, other types of yields, but for our purposes, if you hear the term yield, you should, and in the world too, generally, if you hear the term yield, you should think of yield to maturity. So what is the yield to maturity for a bond? The yield to maturity for a bond is what is the rate of return you will earn if you buy the bond at its current price, whatever is listed as its price right now. You hold the bond all the way to maturity. You don't sell it early. You hold it all the way until maturity, which is when you get the face value. If the issuer of the bond makes all the scheduled payments, the coupon payments and the face value, on time, and if you are reinvesting those coupon payments as they come in at that yield. If all of those things hold true, then the rate of return you will earn for holding the bond is the yield to maturity. Now, it's very important to understand that you're not guaranteed to earn that yield if you don't hold the bond all the way to maturity. If you sell that bond early, you might earn more than that yield. You might earn less than that yield. It'll depend upon what interest rates do during that period of time that you held it. But if you hold it all the way to maturity, it doesn't matter what interest rates do in the meantime. You will earn that yield. That will be the rate of return you have earned, as long as the issuer of the bond is making those interest payments as scheduled, and pays you the face amount as scheduled, and if you are able to reinvest those dollars at that yield as well. So let's see how we go about calculating this. It's really not very difficult. It's just simply finding the R in the same equation for the price of a bond that we were looking at in our last video. So let me pull up our notes, because I think it'll be helpful to see it there in terms of as a math equation. So the yield to maturity is the interest rate. It is the value of R that solves this, this equation right there that we're looking at, okay? So in our example that we were looking at before, where you bought a bond, a 10-year treasury note 2 years ago, and there are 16 semi-annual periods remaining. And if interest rates have gone up from the time, if interest rates have gone down, they were at 7% when you bought the treasury note. They're now down at, they've now gone down. I'm sorry, forget that for a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. That's going to turn out that that'll happen, but we don't know that yet. The price of the bond right now is $11,350. There are 16 semi-annual periods remaining. In each semi-annual period, you're going to get $350. At the end of those 16 semi-annual periods, you will also get the face value, which is $10,000. So the price of the bond is equal to the present value of those coupon payments plus the present value of the face value. So here's our equation. What we don't know at this point in time is what is the discount rate? What is the value of R, which causes the price of the bond to be equal to the present value of the coupon payments? For that, we need to go into R. Now, you probably already do know this because this is the exact same numbers we used in the last video to calculate the price of the bond being at $11,305.50. But pretend you don't know for a second. So let's go into Excel here. And in order to do that, I need to do a new share here. Okay, so you should be looking at Excel with me now. And in order to solve this, we need to solve for the rate. Okay, it's the yield, but it's the rate function in Excel. So we're going to say equals RATE. And then we put the bracket up there. We can go, we don't have to do this, but I kind of like to do it. We go to the function wizard, and it's going to say, okay, how many periods are remaining? How many semi-annual periods is it until this bond matures? And we saw that's going to be 16. That's going to be how many coupon payments you have left to receive. How much are those coupon payments? We said they're $350 each. We're going to put them in as a positive. We could have put them as a negative, but we're going to put them in as a positive. What is the present value of the bond? That is, well, I tell you what, before we go to that, let's go to the future value or the face value. The face value of the bond is going to be $10,000. Remember, its sign, positive or negative, always must be the same as the sign of the coupon payments. So we'll put in 10,000. So since the coupon payments are put in as a positive number, the face value has to be put in as a positive number. Now, here's the thing. The price has to be put in as the opposite number, because if you're buying the bond, you are paying out the price, and then you are receiving the coupon payments and the face value. So we're going to put in the price of the bond as a negative $11,305.50. Okay, so you've contacted a bond dealer, and the bond dealer tells you that, hey, that's what the value of your bond is, or you've just bought the bond for $11,305.50, and the bond has 16 semi-annual periods left, where you're getting $350 each of those, and then it's going to be paying you $10,000 at that point in time. So we click on OK, and the answer that Excel gives us is 3%. It might say 0.03 on Excel for you. This one was already set up to give me percentages. If you want to see it as a percentage, of course, you just click on percent. But 3% isn't really the full answer, because Excel will always round percentages to the nearest percent. We want to be more precise than that. In finance, it's typical practice to take out interest rates to the nearest basis point, where a basis point is 1/100%. That's the standard procedure. So we're going to take this out 2 more places, and we say, it's 2.5%. Big difference between 3% and 2.5%. So 3% is the semi-annual yield. Now, that's the semi-annual yield because we put in 16 as the number of semi-annual periods, and we put in 350 as the semi-annual coupon rate. The semi-annual coupon payments. So this is a semi-annual yield. However, when you use the term yield to maturity or yield, it's understood in the finance community that you're talking about an annual number. So if you tell someone the yield on this bond was 2.5%, they would think you meant 2.5% per year, not 2.5% per semi-annual period. So we know this is the semi-annual yield that Excel calculated for us. In order to find the yield as an annual number, very simple. All we need to do is multiply that number by 2. So we're going to go here, and we're going to say that is equal to this multiplied by 2. And there we've got 0.05. So it's setting at first as a decimal. We're going to change it to a percentage, just because I like to do it that way, and take it out to the nearest basis point. So it's 5%. So the correct answer would be the yield to maturity, or the yield on this bond is 5%. And like I said, we kind of knew that. I did this on purpose. Earlier, we said, what happens if interest rates go down to 5%? The price of the bond goes up to $11,305.50. What we just did now is we said, if you observe that the price is $11,305.50, what must be interest rates in the economy, which is what the yield is on the bond. So if you buy this bond today for $11,305.50, you hold it 16 semi-annual periods, 8 years, all the way to maturity. Each 6 months, you receive $350 right on time. You get the $10,000 at the end of 8 years right on time. And if you are reinvesting those $350 at 5% every time you get them, then you will have earned exactly 5%. And it doesn't matter what interest rates do in the meantime. If, however, you sell the bond prior to the end of those 16 semi-annual periods, then we don't know what rate of return you would have gotten. It could be higher, it could be lower. It depends on what happens during that time there. Let's do one more example with this, with yield to maturity. And I'll refer back over to your class notes here on this one. And here it is. And we're going to see this particular example. It's the same bond, but now there are only 2 years left until maturity. And the price of the bond today is $10,370. So this is what is is the situation with that bond. It's currently priced at $10,370. We're going to get a $350 payment in 6 months, another one at the end of a year, another one at the end of a year and a half, and this one comes at the end of 2 years. The same time that we get this $350 payment here, we're going to also get this $10,000 payment. So each of these payments are being discounted back at the yield, which we need to solve for, okay, where the exponent is going to be the number of semi-annual periods it is until we get that particular cash flow. So notice we've got 1 plus r to the fourth for both that last $350 and for the $10,000 because they both come into us at the same time. So first of all, let's see what we can figure out must be the case before we actually calculate the yield on this bond. Well, we know that this bond is selling for more than its face value, so the bond is selling at a premium. If a bond is selling at a premium, we know it's because the price went up because interest rates went down. When interest rates went down, that means the yield on the bond went down below its coupon rate. This bond has a coupon rate of 7%. So we know the yield on it is going to be something less than 7%. And we don't know yet how much, but it's going to be something less than 7%. So let's go back over to Excel again, and let's calculate this. Okay, we're going to say, in fact, let's make things a little bit easier for us. Let's plug it in here. We're finding the rate again. We want, let's do it this way. We want the number of periods to be four semi-annual periods remaining. The payments are going to be $350. The price this time is not $11,305. The price this time is $10,370. The face value is still $10,000. So four semi-annual periods from now, we're going to get $10,000 as the face value. Each of those semi-annual periods, 4 of them, we're getting $350 coupon payment. We can buy the bond today, or we did just buy the bond at a price of $10,370. What is the yield on this bond? So we click OK, and we see the yield on this bond is 2.52% semi-annually. That's the semi-annual yield. If someone asks you what is the yield on the bond, you would say it's 5.03%. Now, I also want you to notice here, if you try to do this in your head, take 2.52% and multiply it by 2, you would say 5.04. And you say, why isn't it working that way? Well, it's because there's more decimals out there. If we want to take this out a few more decimals, we see it rounded to 2.52, which is fine. That's normal practice in finance. And we can see that here it rounded to 5.03%. So you can see why Excel seemed to be giving you the wrong answer, but it wasn't. 2.5161 is the semi-annual yield. When you double that, you would, or excuse me, at 2.5161, it rounds to 2.52%. When you double that, you get this number, which then rounds to 5.03%. So we now see how to go about calculating the yield on a bond. Now, question for you here. We know that when interest rates go up, the price of a bond goes down. And when interest rates go down, the price of a bond goes up. What happens if the price of a bond doesn't change? Well, the answer is it depends. If a bond is selling at par when the coupon rate is equal to its yield, if interest rates stay the same, the price will stay the same. However, if the bond was selling at a premium, when interest rates don't change, the price of the bond will be going down over time. And if the bond was selling at a discount, when interest rates don't change, the price of the bond will be going up. See, as we get closer to maturity, bonds are always moving, their price is always moving towards their face value. Think of a bond that's going to mature tomorrow. Okay, if it matures tomorrow and it's going to be worth $10,000 tomorrow, what's it going to be worth today? Well, it's certainly not going to be worth $11,000 today if it matures for $10,000 tomorrow, nor is it going to be worth $8,000 today if it matures for $10,000 tomorrow. It's going to be worth something really close to $10,000. So a bond's price is always going to be moving towards that face value as it moves towards maturity. Let's take a look at our notes again and see if we can see how that works in a diagram that I have. Okay. So here is our bond we were looking at. Here was at time 4, okay? 4 semi-annual periods, and its price was $11,350. Here's when it matures. When it matures, we know the value of the bond is going to be $10,000, and it matures at time 20. What's this bond going to be worth at time 10? That's 10 semi-annual periods, so it's after 5 years, if interest rates don't change. Now remember, interest rates at time 0 set up the coupon rate at 7%. So interest rates were at 7%. Between time 0 and time 4, interest rates went down from 7% to 5%. So the price of the bond went up from $10,000 to $11,305. Now, let's assume from 4 to 10, interest rates don't change. They're still sitting at 5%. So if interest rates don't change from time 4 to time 10, will the price of the bond change? Yes, it will, because if interest rates don't change, the price of that bond has to be moving towards its face value at maturity. So if we want to calculate what the price of the bond is, what we're going to do is we're going to have the yield of the bond is semi-annually 2.5%. There are 10 semi-annual periods until the bond matures. The coupon payments are $350. If we plug that into Excel, and I would encourage you to do this on your own, you'll find the price of the bond is $10,875.20. So the price of the bond has dropped from $11,305 to $10,875. That will continue to happen, okay, if interest rates don't change all the way to maturity. So if interest rates go up, the price of a bond will go down. If interest rates go down, the price of a bond will go up. If interest rates are already below the coupon rate and interest rates stay steady, that price of the bond is going to be moving towards its face value. If interest rates are already up above the coupon rate, the price of the bond is going to be moving towards its face value. So no matter what happens, okay, as we move towards maturity, the price of the bond is going to be moving towards its face value when interest rates are not changing along the way. At maturity, all bonds will be worth their face value. Okay, well, that's some information about yield and yield to maturity. You should be able to calculate yield and kind of understand what is being worked with them now. We've still got a little bit more to cover with bonds, so we'll see you in the next video.